Welcome back to Granja Caimito in the Pedroche Valley of Andalusia, Spain. After the rain, in this video, you are going to see what good the rain did to us. When it's mealtime, they all come, no matter how far they have been. They did notice that, and now they're trying to pick up the pace. There is more of the stony part here, but that is why we have them here. And don't worry too much about the oak trees that we have here. We are coming into spring, and that means that it's not so bad how they look at the moment. This will all come back. This, on the other hand, might be the work of the pigs that invaded here, because right next is that fence with the hole that got plugged, and here they came in, so that is because of that. Once the bags with seeds have arrived, we will add more straw, give the cows another chance to add their manure and seed into that straw so that they can trample it, and then this area will be off limits the whole spring, so that later when autumn comes around, then this area should be pretty nice. So that also means that these young oak trees have enough of time to recover and continue growing. Well, yesterday at night it rained quite heavily, and there will be more, and it filled up back a little bit. But I believe I also left the pump running, so it is still filling up now that we have a little bit of sunshine. Yeah, definitely. The combination of pumping water into here and the rain last night makes it come over this bump, which is good. Some of you had recently asked why fill up the swale. The reason is that we are coming into summer soon, and we need to have the water bubble, which is supposed to form down there, filled up. So every drop that we put in here, be it by pumping in or from the rain, is then going to be helpful. And whatever we are going to seed between these two swales should then benefit from the retained water underground. Of course, the roots need to reach that, but that is why we are using a one-time tillage with the help of mules and seed sinks that develop deep roots. Well, this integrated pond here in the swale at CT1, so below the other one, has filled up quite nicely. It is of course not yet overflowing, and we will see at the end of the spring area, of the springtime, whether that will be the case. But at least it is accumulating water, which is also very good. That corner here is a little indicator. So in previous videos you have seen that the water level was quite lower. Now it is almost at the step. We even do have some standing water here in that swale. That is because the area below seems to be saturated, or the soil is not good enough so that it cannot penetrate. But in any case, we have it. That's the result from last night's rain. Up at the berm, you can see that the broad beans are coming up very nicely. In a little while I will go in there and look at this from the other side. But this is a positive sign. So they all have germinated and are growing. Up there, that other integrated pond seems to be quite full. Let's have a closer look. So yes, this is quite full. And we even have a little puddle here. So the rain event was quite heavy. What is interesting to see is that here in front there is no puddle. While on the other side there is that puddle that I just mentioned. So where the puddle is, it is compacted. And here it is not. You can also notice that without doing anything, this whole area that looked like a desert not long ago is now greening up rapidly. And we have not done anything. We have not brought in any seeds. It is just doing it on its own. So there must be seeds left. And the combination of rain and sunshine activates them. But I guess I said this the last time, when it was less impressive, that all of this is not really forage. But something is growing. And when the person with the mules starts working, we also want him to go in there and also till this area and prepare it for seeding. So we are going to have two areas. The one here to the left, which we call CT1, and the one to the right, which we call CT2. And the plan is to seed a mix of things that will then hopefully provide some forage for a part of summer, and the rest will be biomass. We will see how that goes. It's an experiment. And during summer, we can then create our actual paddocks in here, because this area is very huge. Set fence posts with some tricks. It will not be possible to drill, but we have something else that we can do. And we will basically remodel this whole area so that it turns out to be a number of paddocks. Given its size, we might even be able to create, well, let's say up to 10 paddocks here. They might not be the 5,000 square meter type, but a little bit less. But it depends. It depends all on the actual shape, where the trees are sitting, what water retention features we want to have, and how it looks like. So we will see. But at least we will then, when autumn comes around, have something to start rotational grazing in this area to make it fertile. This here is the future pond in the new dog enclosure once we get around to finish that. Right now you won't be able to see it because they are hiding. But yesterday at night I saw a lot of toads making a lot of noise, and they were mating. Olaf, weg. Last year this filled up so much that we dug this little spillway here that will lead the water out into the animal lane there, and from there into what used to be our paddock base 3, but now has a little pond in there as well. I guess when it continues to rain heavily, we will then have to reduct this a little bit. That was done by shovel. And as this area here has no other exit, this will then be the emergency spillway. This whole area still looks like wild and unfinished, and there are a lot of things that we would like to have, but of course time is a problem, and there are other things that are more important. But this wall here will eventually see a fence, a 2-meter high fence, good enough for dogs so that they cannot escape. Of course, by now I don't expect these dogs will actually do something bad, because the area that we have there, that temporary dog enclosure, has worked very well, and they know what not to do. But in any case, once we might have visitors here, and even people stay here for a while. So for example, if I pan to the left, a little bit further, so from here on to the left, this eventually should be a horse training area, but we can use this temporary as a campground. So let's say we get a bunch of you guys here, and then it would be a nice idea to have the dogs in a controlled environment instead of roaming freely, because not everybody might be comfortable with them, and also we don't want to train them to be friendly to anybody, to everybody who might show up, because then their function gets lost. Does not make sense to train a guard dog on being friendly to any visitor day and night. Then he's not guarding anymore. So we rather leave their natural instinct to guard attacked and enjoy our biologic alarm system. I can also tell that these guys have been very smart. So a few times when someone showed up, 6 were guarding that person outside the compound, and 2 were fetching me by barking at the door. And I don't want to lose that function. Jetzt. Well, I guess that was successful dog training. Let's go and check out what the rain did here and whether the duckweed is still around. It does look like it filled up a little bit more. Mr. Cat is also coming. So I don't see any duckweed. Might also be that it got eaten, because after all it is food. It was a very small bag. I guess we need to cultivate it in a secure place and then put it out when there is enough that it exceeds the demand. Due to the presence of the horses here in this area, that is our zone B behind the compound, we do have a lot of nettles all over. And as far as I know, that plant thrives when there is a lot of nitrogen available, and I would think that is what the horse manure that we have all over the place has achieved. And I am just making a discovery. There is a dead sheep. So that is not a very pleasant sight. But this is what happens. Cause of death unknown. They mostly roam here in this area. And someone has been asking, what do we do? Well, now that we have seen it, we will take this dead animal to the compost. And apparently someone had already been at it. It might be vultures, it might be another animal, but this is just how it is. It has rained quite a bit today, and I don't see any water coming down here. So usually the water that came down here is from CT1. Also we are looking at the neighbor's land here across that stone wall. And then that water was rushing down this, seasonal creek, let's call it like that. And it went that way. And there is a hole in the ground, I will go next, but we plugged it so that the water will not leave the area. Instead, it forms a pond of some sort. Work in progress, like most things. And this time, there might be water in there, but it's from the rain and from the surrounding area, so not so much from up there. So here we do have a little bit of water, but it's almost nothing. And this area here to the right is going to be a paddock at some time. But it's a far-fetched project. We have to take care of the other zones first. And eventually, after we have figured out how to protect them, we might have ducks or something like that here. But right now this would be a bad idea, because that is where the foxes and other predators have easy access. So we need to think about how to do this. But it would be nice. And as I'm standing here, what I can show you, up there, that is the wall of a pond that the neighbor uses to water their animals. That is some 20 plus years old. And that is one of two larger ponds that are on this property. There are no wells of any kind. And that is how they bring the animals through summer, if those ponds are filled. Which at the moment is a different thing. We do know that one time that neighbor, it's that bad neighbor who is still there, I don't know what is going on, did bring a cistern full of water for the cows. So that's their problem that they have, because there are no wells. As I'm standing here, I can also tell we have begun to work on this area a little bit. So the plan is to more or less quickly set new fence posts and add the wire mesh to this, so that we have a solid fence, real fence. And of course we want to tension the wire mesh and make this really right, so that this whole area can then be used for pigs. So this is our 5 male pig experiment, where the fermented food is also playing into. And we have walked this, we have made a plan, and now we have to implement this. So that inside of this area we can use those 5 male pigs to try to seed with the help of pigs. So the plan is to create some 100 square meter plots with electric fencing around. We know that this works, so it's going to be a 2-strand polywire connected to the energizer, and then the pigs, after they have been trained on that, will respect it. We know that from a past experiment. And then we will let them uproot the area for a few days. Or might just be 1 day, because there are 5. We did this before with 3, and I know that after 4 days the area is in such a shape that we need to take them out. So maybe it will be just a day. And then we will throw in some seed, and then see how much of the seed will actually germinate, or how much they will eat. So of course, if we do this with corn, I would assume that they will eat a lot, but some of it will stay and turn into plants. We will do this with grass seeds and with many other things, just as an experiment to learn how we can take advantage of the pigs in a natural way, instead of tilling the soil with a tractor and all the other things. So the idea is to rediscover a little bit the past, when people had no tractor. And that should enable us in the future to have a larger amount of pigs and use their habits to our advantage and also to their advantage, because they are basically helping us to plant their food. So this is the area for this experiment here. The area also had been fertilized for quite some time. The sheep and the horses, they have added all the good stuff. And now when we add the pigs to it and they turn all that over, this should make some pretty good soil. So the area is well prepared to receive plants. There where we have the tall grass, that is the area where we had the watermelons over summer. This area turned out to be astonishingly good. I wish this is how our paddocks would look like. This is part of our wannabe food forest, and once in a while, just like it were a paddock, we let the horses and sheep in here so that they maintain this and add their fertilizer. And before we planted the watermelons, this was also cut manually a little bit. Also, once in a while, we used a scythe for this. I hope that was the right pronunciation. And left the material. But in general, that used to be the very same poor soil like we have everywhere. So something definitely has changed. This is another small garden experiment. We learned that garlic at the root of fruit trees is a beneficial thing. So we used a few garlic so we used a little bit garlic from the supermarket and just planted it here just to see what will happen. And it came up pretty nicely. Lately someone had been asking how much of our land is this wannabe food forest. So as we have 45 hectares, and this is maybe some 2,000 square meters at most, this is a tiny fraction of the whole land. And you can also see that our effort here is nothing in comparison to what we would have to do in the rest of the land. So if we were about planting and planting and planting instead of having cattle to help with the restoration of the soil, we certainly would need to work with a lot of people, and I cannot afford that. But I can feed the cows, and the cows can help with the soil. So something to keep in mind. So there are all these very interesting and very nice and very good restoration efforts all over. And in a lot of cases, there's a lot of people, mostly volunteers, working to plant trees and do other plant-based things. That is very good. And I would love to have something like this going on here. And I also did ask a few people, but the answer was negative. So we do this in a different way. This is an open forest. It is man-made. It's called Dehesa, and it is an agroforestry system that people here in this area have established for a very long time, so several centuries, and apparently it has worked well. Now that lately people have been overdoing things and overgrazed it and all that, that is just what has happened now. The system in itself seems to be a very good thing. So we should not question the foundation of this, but instead do improvements. And that is what we are about. So it's not so much about planting a lot of additional or new trees. There are trees around, and several thousands. just in the case of our small piece. And pigs and cattle are an integral part of that system. What you see here, this wannabe food forest, that is a different type of system. And I am trying to figure out how to combine the two things. But I cannot get rid of what is already there, because that is what this area here is all about, and it has been there for a lot longer than just one generation of people. They have been doing a good job in here. It is now getting a little bit dark, so might not be that interesting to see. But at least what I can tell, they have mowed the lawn, so to say. Well, she has an interesting game here. But does not matter. And tomorrow they will be in the lower half of this. And as always, Sakahawea wants to say hello. She won't come very close because there is an electric wire and she knows that. But what I'm trying to say is this is the area where we have the palovnia trees. The horses know where to put their feet, so it's not a big problem. They won't destroy the trees, but we wanted to graze this area off with some gentle animals before the trees now start to develop their leaves. They are resprouting, and so they have done this job, and by tomorrow they should be in the lower part of this, and then this will be off limits for a good while, because now that we are coming into spring, we want to get the chicken thing started for good. So today, while it was raining, we had a conversation, and we now know that a very important priority is to get the first mobile chicken coop ready. And then hopefully the palovnias will have their big leaves and we can start to play with chickens in here. Mr. Cat is roaming the whole area. He goes out and explores everything around. And now that he heard my voice, he wants to say hello as well. He is a very curious fellow. The issue with this cat is he gets into your way. He likes to do that and also be between your feet, and then it is kind of dangerous because you don't want to stomp on him, and he usually won't let you walk. It's a bit difficult. You can see I'm trying to walk and he gets in the way. Then I have to be very careful not to break his leg or so. I don't know what he's up to. That was it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please come back in a few days to see how the journey continues. Please enjoy the sunset while we continue to enjoy our connection to the stars.